Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I recently sat down with Riccadonna and talked about comedy and various other things for a little over half an hour. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe so you can be updated when a new podcast comes out, and it also helps the channel. Hope you enjoy. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We're right now sitting down with Riccadonna.
How are you, man?
Good, you?
This is good. It's really hot. I just took the garbage out, and when I walked back, I was like covered in sweat. So it's
like 100 degrees.
It's a beautiful day to be inside.
Usually they say it's a beautiful day to be outside.
I like to sit inside and look out onto the balcony and see it from a distance with the air conditioning blowing on me.
It's probably also fun to look out and see all those people being burned to death.
It's like watching a grill. You know, I'm just watching people roast. But, beautiful
so you've been
Myrtle Beach. This is the place to be.
Where did you originally grow up?
Okay, so I was born in Youngstown, Ohio, and then I moved from Youngstown to New York City as a teenager, and then I got married, and when we had kids, I moved to Philadelphia. But it's funny because you're from Johnstown, which is very close to Youngstown. It's not too far away from each other. That little corner of Western PA, northeastern Ohio is like a pocket where so many people come from because you run into people from there all the time. And just this week we ran into a couple people, and randomly a friend of mine from New York City married a guy who's from your hometown.
Yeah.
And they were talking with your dad and had a bunch of mutual friends, and my father's actually from that area as well. And I was in El Salvador, and I ran into a guy who is from my hometown, and my brother works for him now. But at the time, I go down there and I see Guerrilla Fire, and I was like, oh my God. Like, they're 10 miles away from my mom and dad's house, and we're in El Salvador. He's down here doing fire safety. And, I was in Iraq, and I was just sitting at a picnic table, and all of a sudden a shadow came over me, and I looked up. I couldn't see. It was just a silhouette of a guy. And he said it. He goes, "Are you Mark Riccadonna?" I go, "Yep." And I could see the silhouette. He had a gun and his whole military garb on. And he goes, "You remember me?" And I couldn't see him because he was right directly in the sun. And I go, "Oh, God, I hope I was nice to you." It was a guy from my high school. He actually was a freshman when I was a senior. And it was like, we're in Iraq, and I run into him. It's
crazy.
It's crazy how small the world is. Like, as much as everyone thinks that this world is so huge, it's not that big. Everybody, it's fun. Everybody's kind of the same. And, you know, we're in a time now, especially with politics and stuff, where it's dividing everybody and everybody's fighting over stuff. And it's like, we're all basically the same people from the same little town, doing the same things. So
You've been coming down to Myrtle Beach for, what was it, like 10 years?
10 years, and watching this town develop. When I first came down here, it was, you know, a little beach town, and there was like, you know, people would come down for vacation and stuff, but like where we're sitting right now in this condo was all woods. And every time I'd come down, it would be, you know, spread out, and I'd come down, there's just so much development going on. It's a lot of people like, you know, yourselves who moved down here, which I think is crazy because it's so hot. I'm more of a cold person. I like seeing snow and other things than summer all year round.
Not only have you been coming down here for 10 years, but I always hear that all these comics say that the Comedy Cabana is one of their favorite clubs, one of their most loved clubs, all the things like that. What makes it truly special?
Well, I mean, it has a great reputation, but it's because it starts from the top down. Jeff and Christine are like the nicest people on the planet. So when you're down here, you don't feel like you're by yourself on the road. You actually feel like the people care about you. The staff is always friendly. And it changes over, and sometimes you come back and there's a new person, or it's the same people, but they're all friendly, and it really makes you feel like while you're there, the people actually care, and some clubs you go in and, you don't even know who's running the place or who to talk to or you just kind of like, oh, I guess we're starting the show.
Yeah.
And here it's like, it's great. Plus, like, I mean, after a show, as a comic, you're so amped up and you're so happy and excited, and there's energy and adrenaline, and you just hit this high from being on stage, and you get off stage, and sometimes towns like shut down, and you just go back to your hotel and you're all alone or whatever. But here it's like after the show, you sit with the staff, you're having conversations, you're talking, you're having a good time. I mean, just last night we were there
for like, what, half an hour?
Yeah, and I mean, Christine's like uncle's in town, and we're just talking about food and different things, and it's like, you feel like you're part of the group. Yeah, you're part of this family, and you're having fun. It's not like, okay, show's over, get out of here. But,
being a road comic, I'm sure you travel a lot. What's your main traveling? Car, what's your favorite?
I like having my car because then you have access to leave. But so I flew down for this. I started to do a thing that if it's more than 7 hours, I'll fly. And that's mostly just because now that I have kids, I want to have minimal travel time. And so, I would love to have my car here so I could, during the day, go do something, like drive somewhere or go whatever. But now with, Uber and Lyft, it's so easy to just hop in, get a ride wherever you want to go. But, tomorrow we're planning to have a big breakfast with Joey and Jeff and Christine. And then Joey and I think, are going to go to the aquarium and write some jokes and hang out, and I really love doing that kind of stuff, and I drive a lot.
Whenever you do drive all that time, what do you listen to mostly? Music? Do you listen to podcasts? Do you watch TV on a little screen?
So I used to just listen to music all the time, and then I got into books on tape, and this was pre-MP3, so this is when you actually had tape or a CD, and you had to put in and stop it, or now with podcasts and books on your iPod, it's a completely different game. But books on tape are expensive. Podcasts are free, so I started finding out there's amazing podcasts out there, and there's also a thing, iTunes University. And it's actual courses, like college courses, that are online that you can just listen to. I mean, obviously you're not going to get a degree or anything, but I'm in it for the knowledge, not the paperwork.
Or just the fun to listening to what all these people...
Yeah, I love psychology stuff. I really love listening to psychology courses, and I also have a bunch of books about psychology and trying to find the scientific reasoning behind being happy. Is there a science behind it? How come this person's happy and this person isn't? And
I'm sure that would help with comedy.
Yeah, and it's just fascinating, and I think you can never stop learning. I think when people, we were just talking earlier, you and I haven't played video games in so long, probably close to 18 years. I haven't played video games, but I really should learn. I should play. I should be learning. A couple guys were telling me about Twitch. It's one of the most viewed things on the planet. So there's obviously something behind it, but to an old fart like me, it's, I'm going to watch somebody play a video game? Like, I want to learn. Why is that important to people? Why does the younger generations love watching this and hearing people talk while they're playing the video games? There's something to it. I mean, I don't know it yet, but...
If it makes you feel any better, the oldest, if I remember correctly...
Well, you're like a little old man.
The oldest gaming YouTuber is, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I believe she's like 87 years old.
I would definitely watch that. Just an old lady, like, yelling at the TV. That'd be hysterical. I'd feel like my grandma was still alive.
Sad part of it is she, if I remember correctly, she plays harder games.
Really?
Like, games that I would have problems with.
Is she good?
Yeah.
Nice. All right. That's like, there's those videos where it's like old women getting high. Like old women smoking weed. And it's like hysterical. Why wouldn't you want to watch it? It's funny. But I think it's just... it's constantly trying to learn, constantly trying to, I want to always improve myself or try to better myself. I always try to have a positive spin on things. And I just think it's important. The hard part is not only to listen to comedy, because I want to listen to all my friends' podcasts. Yeah. And it's all comedians talking about comedy. Yeah. And it's like, I got to expand my horizons and find some other interests. Like we were talking earlier, I love TV. Haven't been to a movie in forever because I have kids and just traveling all the time. It's easier for me to pop a Netflix and app and watch it on my computer than it would be to go to a movie. You're a movie guy, right? You love the movies.
Actually, I'm not that much of a movie guy. I'm mostly the only movies I really watch are the, Marvel movies.
Oh, okay.
Or, a lot of the science fiction movies that come out, like the Star Wars.
Yeah, that's right. We were talking about this. You're in the sci-fi, and that's something I should be getting into. It's something I don't really know a lot about. My wife and I watched Battlestar Galactica, and I thought it was great just because if it didn't take place in outer space, it would still be a great, interesting story.
Yeah, with all the political details and the
relationships between the characters. It's
almost like a little bit of Earth is in space.
Yeah.
Or a lot of the other of other movies or science fiction, fantasy, things like that, it's fantasy or science fiction. It's not like Earth in space, it's space in space.
Yeah. Well, if you took Battlestar Galactica and you put it in the Pentagon, it's the West Wing.
It'd be the same thing, minus big spaceships.
Yeah, but it could be just regular airplanes, and fighting with another country instead of another spaceship. And the other one was Star Trek. I mean, it's basically a show about an aircraft carrier, but it's in outer space. The Enterprise is a real aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
But I when we first started talking about it, I was like, I don't watch science fiction. I don't really. But we started talking, and you opened my eyes to it, that it is because I love real things. I love real stuff because it's so interesting, whatever. So it's like, why have this fake fantasy thing? But you were right. You said it's about the relationships. It's about the storyline. It's not about that this guy's an alien and this guy's it's a real interaction, and that's even really cool. Now I'm interested. I'm gonna have to go back and start watching some sci-fi.
Yeah, and I can also recommend you a bunch of other, because you said you like realism.
Yeah,
realistic things. Mm-hmm. I could recommend you a Warhammer 40,000. It's a realistic science fiction of basically this, and to put in the basics perspective, this humanity that's stuck in a political and religious loop of self-destruction.
Well, that sounds familiar.
In self-destruction, while constantly fighting aliens and people that go against what they believe in.
Yeah. I mean,
It's like you can make hundreds of parallels, even in that minimalistic explanation.
Yeah.
But you can create hundreds of more parallels, and that's what I like about a lot of science fiction.
That's cool.
Because
I'm gonna open my eyes. I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try looking at new stuff because I mean I generally like. I don't like reality TV because that's so fake. I like scripted, but you know, I watch a lot of shows, and like there's this show I'm Dying Up Here that's about stand-up comedy in the 70s, and I started watching it because a friend of mine's in it, and when I started watching it, I was like, this is good. I didn't think it was great, but I thought it was good. And then the second season, you can tell they actually put a lot of work in. And you can tell the actors put the work in because all of a sudden you start caring about all of them. And the first season, I was sitting there going, the most likable guy in this is a heroin addict. Like, this isn't going to be a great show. And then all of a sudden, by the second season, by the time they got there, it was all of a sudden you cared about all their stories and you cared about their backgrounds and you want to see them succeed. And some of them you actually kind of want to see fail because they needed a kick in the ass, you know?
It's what I don't like that a lot of people say with like a lot of TV shows, science fiction, just basically movies and all that, is that it's just a movie. Like you get all these ties. Someone dies, you cry, you feel sad, you want this person to win. And they say, it's just a movie, it's just a TV show, it's just a book.
Yeah.
I just don't understand how those people can... Because I'm sure it is just a book or just a TV show.
Yeah, but if the actors are good and the writing's good, it changes everything. Because when you watch like a corny old movie, and the bad guy's a bad guy just because he's a bad guy, you know, like I'm gonna take over the world. There's no like reasoning behind things. But then you watch certain movies, and all of a sudden you see the bad guy's justified of why he's doing what he's doing. But somebody has to stop them, you know, because it's either collateral damage or whatever. And they're justified. It opens up and you actually start caring about both sides. And it's not really good versus evil. It's right versus wrong because somebody might have... I mean, so do you remember the movie Gladiator?
Never watched it.
Never watched. Okay, so in a nutshell, a guy is taken in... to be a gladiator.
Yeah.
And he was actually a great fighter and everything. And the king has a real son, but he kind of doesn't pay attention to him because the son's a little bit of a spoiled brat.
Yeah.
So he starts taking a liking to this gladiator because he sees him overcoming all this adversity and doing all this stuff. Well, the son's pissed off because this guy's getting the affection of his father. So he then wants to take on the gladiator to show his father, I'm your son and I'm worth investing time with and investing interest. But he knows he can't beat the gladiator. So he has to cheat. He has to do little things so he looks good in front of his father. The whole thing is him trying to get his father's acceptance. So the guy who's the bad guy, who's Joaquin Phoenix's character... If you really look at it and you really watch it, he's not a horrible person. He's cheating, and that's what makes you upset. And you also know that the good guy is just trying to get home because his family was dead and family got killed. And so you see their points of view of why they're doing it. But in reality, it's all justified. Joaquin Phoenix just wants the love of his father. And the only way he thinks he can get it is by killing this gladiator, but he can't because he's not good enough of a fighter.
Yeah.
And so it's like he's not a bad guy, even though he is. Yeah. And it's the TV show The Wire was a show that, in my eyes, I'm sure there's shows you can go further back, but it was a show that when I first started watching it, you're seeing the perspective of the cops. And so you're seeing some of them are doing bad things that would be considered bad, but they're justified because they're trying to better their community. But then you're also seeing, from the drug dealer's point of view, that he's making choices because he's trying to help his family.
Yeah.
So it's the way he can do it is going down this criminal path. So all of a sudden you start having empathy for the bad guy.
Yeah, and while that is a common trope, I believe that's the correct word, in like drug dealers or murderers or people who steal different things like that, is that they're doing it for their like weak and old grandma or something like that. But the reason it's a trope, the reason it's overused, is because it's a good way.
It's real.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really going on.
Something that happens to a lot of people.
Yeah, and it was so interesting because you're watching it and you're seeing, if you just put it on paper, black and white, you go, well, he's a criminal, he's a bad guy, he's a cop, he's a good guy. But then when you're watching it, all of a sudden you're going, this criminal, I see why he's doing that. And then you see the cop doing something bad and you're going, oh, I can see why he's doing that. And you actually care because the actors and the writing are so good that you actually care about their storyline. So instead of just saying that's a bad guy, like you were saying, that's a book, it's a movie, who cares? Yeah. You actually personally invest into these people, especially when it's a long series, and you start really investing emotions toward these characters, and it's like really cool.
And like I know you haven't seen Infinity War, and just in case you do in the future want to see it, I won't really spoil anything for you.
Oh, you can spoil away.
The main villain, Thanos, his entire reason for trying to steal all the magical gems, the Infinity Stones, and he wants to wipe out half the universe. Basically just wipe out half the universe. And the reason he wants that is because there's a limited amount of resources. So he
help their existence go longer.
He wants
less
to
people drinking from
decrease,
the well.
Decrease the people. And the reason he's so invested is because his own planet was destroyed. He's the last one alive. And whenever his planet was being destroyed, well, metaphorically being destroyed, all the people overusing the resources, stuff like that, he proposed to kill half the people and leave another half, and just like random. Not like, oh, let's kill all the peasants and leave all the great people alive. Yeah. Like half.
He just wants to just cut the population down. He's not trying to cut a certain part of the population down.
He's just trying to cut half the population.
Yeah.
But of course, no one wants their family members randomly killed.
Yeah.
So that's where the opposition comes in. But you understand, okay, this guy has faced major problems. He's essentially scarred.
Yeah.
Because he's the last one alive. His family, whether he had, his mother and father, maybe even a wife, his friends, his everything is killed because they didn't heed his warning.
Yeah.
So you realize, okay, I have to do it by force. If you want something done right, you have to do it yourself. And starts trying to wipe out half the population of every planet.
That sounds great. I have a friend who actually worked on the film. He does special effects, and he works for ILM and George Lucas and all those guys, and he works on a lot of these movies that we're talking about. The sci-fi stuff. He works on a lot of that stuff, and he worked on like Jurassic Park. Now, Jurassic Park is something that I don't know. I mean, I guess that's science fiction. It doesn't take place in space, but it takes place in.
Yeah, because it does use the science of like, bring back time. I haven't watched it myself, but from what I understand.
Yeah, it's they find DNA of a dinosaur and they kind of recreate like cloning, and they bring back dinosaurs and.
Actually, kind of almost like a crossover between realism, fantasy, and science fiction.
It's like what would happen if, and it's.
That's actually my favorite thing to think of. What happens if? Yeah. That's why I like science fiction. Because like in the real world, you have to think of all these. Okay, where in like science fiction or sometimes fantasy, but I prefer science fiction, you can say, okay, what if this FTL, the faster than light drive, never happened? Or what if
Yeah. What if we let people
this person came back to life, maybe?
Yeah.
Just for the fun of it. What if?
Yeah, and that's, I mean, they're exciting because Jurassic Park doesn't, like, defy... It explains why they could bring dinosaurs back, but it's not like all of a sudden he has a laser gun or something.
Yeah.
It's like everything's, like...
Explained
in modern time, where I understand when you're watching sci-fi, it's usually in the future, and so they don't really have time to show you how everything developed to
Unless
get
it's like
there.
In a book series.
Yeah, but my problem is I don't have time to watch it. But I do love that stretching the imagination of saying, like, what one if these dinosaurs, and then they figured out how to break down the one barrier. Now they're roaming this island, and it's kind of it's fun. And now that you open my eyes, I'm interested. I want to watch some sci-fi. And as we're talking about sci-fi, the people at home that can't see us, you have these giant white headphones that are glowing different colors. I feel like we're going to go on a journey. And I didn't bring my spacesuit.
Which is funny because I'm right now wearing a Black Panther shirt. Which is technologically signed.
Yeah. He's a comic character, right? I didn't watch it. It got amazing reviews. Everybody's talking about it.
Yeah, I liked it.
Good. You got the shirt. You must have liked it a little bit.
Yeah. And once again, we were talking about, like, games. Like, you haven't played games in forever.
Yeah, I was playing Sonic the Hedgehog. And Tomb Raider was, like, the last game that was really getting popular when I started to stop playing video games. The original Tomb Raider, it was like one of the first, like, 3D-ish, where you're, like, behind the person, you can see like everywhere, and that was probably the last game that I bought. Like, I never finished it because I remember it was like, I was kind of like getting ready to move to New York, and I was overwhelmed when I moved there because I grew up in the country. And I moved to my first apartment was right off of Times Square on 40th and 8th, across from the bus station. And this is when New York wasn't really cleaned up yet. They were just starting to clean it up, so it was like, stepping over junkies to leave my apartment. And
you said you're from the country?
Yeah.
Oh, so whenever you got to New York, we were like, what is this, electric? Never heard of it.
There were Amish people right by where I grew up, and they actually worked on our house. So I had a lot of I had a couple friends that are Amish, but it was and then I was going to theater school, and to be completely honest, I was a meathead in high school. I was a jock. I was in the sports, and I didn't have time to read, and I'm a very different person than I am now. But I was very in the art, and so when I moved to New York, I all of a sudden realized I needed to catch up with the people I was going to school with. These were people who were reading and constantly, reading 3 or 4 plays, a day, and they're trying to get smarter and learn more and figure out things. So I had to play catch up. And so when I left Ohio, moved to New York, it was kind of like goodbye to video games and that kind of stuff, because it was like, now I got to start investing in learning the arts. And I didn't want to fail because I really loved doing it. So I went full in. I was putting 6 to 8 hours a day in school, and then coming home and putting another 6 hours of rehearsal, catching up on reading, trying to figure out who these they're talking about Shakespeare plays. I have no idea what the play's about. I've never read it.
Leonardo da Vinci.
Yeah, it was time to play catch up. So I kind of had to lose from like 99 2000 to probably like 2010, I was so behind in pop culture. I didn't listen to any, because I was just constantly diving into books. trying to learn everything I could. And I kind of lost track of popular culture, you know, and I didn't watch a lot of TV. I didn't go to the movies. I didn't listen to new music that was coming out. I wasn't playing video games.
You're good with that.
Yeah,
you
right.
Don't want to listen
I
to
feel
music.
like I'm better off, you know, the last CD I bought was probably in 1994. I know more about 80s music than somebody who was in high school in the 80s. But it's interesting, and then, you know, you start to, I go back, because, like, I was never a Beatles fan, and people are like, how are you never a Beatles fan? Like, they're the great, and to me it was, you know, this I Want to Hold Your Hand pop, bubblegum pop stuff. I didn't really, you know, dig into them. They didn't speak to me, and people would get, you know, really upset. They're like, how could you not like the Beatles? I was like, because I like the Rolling Stones. I like Elvis. I like Led Zeppelin. I like, you know, a little harder of a thing. But then I started, doing my little research thing, and you find all points go back to, like, the Beatles and Elvis, and through those two doorways then go to the classical music and that kind of stuff.
And even if you don't like the Beatles, you can still respect that.
That's exactly.
They inspired.
I was just about to say, to me, the Beatles are like Shakespeare. I don't necessarily think I'll pay to see it, but God, I respect it, and I know that it's because of them. All the stuff that I enjoy now was filtered through their lens, you know. And
Yep. As a final question, let's get back to comedy for it.
Why do you want to talk about comedy?
What's something for new comics?
New comics? Here's what's crazy. So when I started, it was very different than it is now. It's almost a completely different game, and it's a lot of because of social media. It's a lot of doing this, podcasting, and stuff like this. Like, when I started out, it was just get on stage as much as you can and be as funny as you can so people want to book you.
Yeah.
And now comics are expected to kind of be their own businessmen, too.
Like go on social media.
Yeah,
promote,
can you get people in the
advertise.
door? And it's like, when I started, it was just, are you really funny? And then the club would get people in, and if you were funny, you could build a following. But now it's like you have to build a following before you get in the club. So it's like it's a different ball game. And so I don't know the right answer to tell somebody, but I will say getting on stage, constantly writing, and doing the art. Do the art of it. Do the artistic side. Figure out all the little things about how people see you on stage and what's your style, what are you trying to say, what are you trying to do. Do all of that stuff, and because that's what's going to keep you on a career. Like, you can be a great social media person. I remember when MySpace came out, and you got all these people who were killing it on MySpace and filling it up, and then everybody abandoned MySpace and went to Facebook, and people were like, oh, crap. Like, now I don't have that following anymore.
Now I have to redo it.
I have to start over. And then when Facebook started building up, everybody jumped to Twitter, and then they jumped, now the Instagram's the thing, and it's like, I don't know if I can keep up with all the trends. I do the ones that I enjoy. Like we were talking about Twitter. I have a ton of followers on Twitter. Nobody replies to things. I post stuff. Nobody replies or talks or goes back and forth. But I do it on Facebook, which, you know, the younger generation thinks Facebook is lame. I think it's great. Every time I put something on Facebook, I have conversations with people. I just posted my schedule for the summer. And a friend of mine from Texas started talking to me and goes, I'm going to get these people to come out and see you. And then a friend of mine in Ohio was reposting it and putting it up. And it was like, just because I posted my schedule, where, you know, I'll post a video. I just, my 4-year-old is in love with this horse. He's a mini horse, and his name's Crazy Legs because he has a lame leg. And he's like a mascot for this animal rescue place. And my son... And like all of us went, my nieces, my kids, my wife, and we went and met the horses. They wanted to show us, these horses jumping over fences and doing all these tricks or whatever. Well, my son fell in love with Crazy Legs.
Yeah.
Crazy Legs is he's basically like a dog is. Like, he just wanders around. He doesn't really do much because he has that lame leg.
Yeah.
But he's a lovable horse. But, like, we went and started watching the horses jump the fences, and my 4-year-old just turns to us and goes, well, when's Crazy Legs come out? And we go, oh, no, Crazy Legs isn't going to do the tricks. He's out in the thing. And he goes, well, then I want to go out there and hang out with him. And then we took him to, it was months later, we went to a state fair, and they had Clydesdales, which are these tremendously beautiful, large horses. He walks right over to the 4-H lady and goes, is Crazy Legs here? And the lady goes, I don't know what a Crazy Legs is. I go, it's a horse that he met before. She goes, oh, I'm sorry, Crazy Legs isn't here. And he just turns to my wife and goes, let's get out of here. And Crazy Legs is sick. I saw a post. He got pneumonia, and he's in the hospital right now. And, I posted a thing, and I have now all these people are commenting about, hoping Crazy Legs is better, and they're having these great conversations and connecting to people. And that's kind of what's cool about social media. I'm not a fan of the fighting on politics and that stuff. Some people feed off of that and vibe off of it, and it's how they get their following. But, to me, it's all about connecting and being happy and, that kind of stuff. And in a very roundabout way, what I'm saying is
stick to social media.
Be true to yourself. That's really important. I don't know how to do the social media stuff that it's filling rooms and that kind of stuff. But the people that I do connect with, I have a very good connection with. And, I just try to stick true to myself, and hopefully people come and see me and enjoy me. Yeah. But, I'm sure there are people that don't like me, but I guess they don't have to come to the show.
Well, I thank you for being here with me and talking to me for 36 minutes.
Yay! All right.
Please, ladies and gentlemen, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you again soon.